Hello, my black kitties. I actually got some news today, or I'll be honest, it was probably like 4 days ago, but everything feels very fresh right now in a lot of different ways. And that's a different topic, different day. But Sophia Raine, I think that's her name. I'm gonna call it just Rain because my name is Air and I just feel like that's kind of cute. But she what a fucking badass girl. Like, at the end of the day, props to you, little one. I am like mesmerized by the fact that she made $43 million this year by being her unleashed goddess self. And okay, for anyone that has no idea what I'm talking about right now, and you're like, what? There is a platform called OnlyFans. I'm sure you've heard about it. It's very popular and it's very controversial at times as well. But nonetheless, it is a little bit of a racy platform, especially if you come from a very like traditional background, very culturally traditional background. And this girl, I want to meet her. Like, I want to have a cup of tea with her and sit down and be like, let's talk. Let's really get into this and share all the feels. Because the fact that this goddess went and made $43 million puts the top of the top CEOs to shame. And she didn't have to go and like get a lot of inventory as far as like she didn't launch, retail businesses. She didn't have to go and like do all the traditional hard things that like come with the masculine businesses. Like she was just a divine feminine. And I'm not going to take this away from her. I'm sure it's some work. I'm sure that, there was some business brokering that had to happen. I'm sure that she had to have a lot of strong boundaries for her, not just her body, but like her mind and her heart. And I'm sure that it wasn't easy. I'm not going to take that away from her whatsoever. Like full props, very much full respect. But at the end of the day, she is someone I'm going to say is in her black cat energy. And this is where I get super controversial and I don't necessarily care because this is something. Here's the thing. You can completely disagree with someone's lifestyle. You can disagree with their choices. You can disagree with them head to toe, inside and out. But you can always learn something from a different person. Like, that is something I've learned through all of the psychotherapy. That's something I learned in spirituality. That's something I learned in Tantra, is you can always learn something, even from your enemies, even from the people you don't like, even from the people you just cannot fathom, whether it's your religion, whether it's your morals, your values, your ethics, I don't care. You can still learn something. And I feel like we can learn something from Miss Raine over here because she took one of the deepest powers that the feminine energy has and she monetized the hell out of it. Like she took all of her feminine essence and got rewarded for it. And here's the thing. You can disagree with sexuality and sensual expression. You can, be like, oh my goodness, she's ruined her life. She's going to get judged. But that actually, I personally feel, is a sign of a trigger or something that is really limiting your belief system and not necessarily something wrong with her. Because if you are really happy as a person and you're really confident and you're secure, and it could be in your religious beliefs, it could be in, again, anything, you would not feel the need. You want to be triggered. You wouldn't be like, oh my goodness, she's awful. She's like going to hell or, she's exploiting herself. Like you wouldn't be like that. You'd be like, good for her, right? Good for her. That may not be my personal choice. That may not be something I want for my life, but good for her, right? So you wouldn't be like judgmental or anything. And that's what makes a woman really powerful, is often women get told that they have to compete in order to be loved. And from a young age, like as early as like 3 years old, you're being groomed as a woman to be like, I should be, prettier, or I should, wear the pretty clothing, you brush my hair, put on makeup when I get old, like whatever, right? And we get this from like the Barbie inspirations, and we get this from like pageants and just, modeling and magazines and whatever, right? But when you step into your true divine feminine, which is part of the black cat energy, that doesn't bother you. Like, you see another sister and you're like, go get it, go get yours. And that's how I feel about stuff. Like, I might be like, maybe OnlyFans is the way to go. Like, if you're making $43 million a year, girly. Like, I even have a couple of friends that are making 2, 3, 4 million. And I'm like, still, they're buying their own houses, like going around the world. They're in great relationships. That's another big thing that I've really had to challenge as I've learned about her story this week is, I always thought that men were always going to be like, I don't want that as like my woman. But at this day and age, that is such a lie. And it's mind-boggling because I sit with my clients that are males and they're like, it wouldn't bother me whatsoever. Like there's one or a few clients that are like super successful, XYZ, high value men. And I'm like, no, like, why wouldn't I want a man to like adore and, kind of lust after my one? I'm the one taking her home. Like, I'm the one that like gets the reward out of it. And I thought that was like very interesting, kind of healthy perspective overall. Because I was like, he's letting her be in her divine feminine goddess energy, sexual expression, whatever you want to call it. And he's like not feeling insecure about it. And men innately do have insecurities. Like, their ego is a really big thing. And that's not a bad thing. Like, heart to heart with men, like, I love men. I think they're amazing. But they often feel like they can't show their expressions. And they have emotions. Like, anger is an emotion. Being protective is an emotional expression. Like, provider man mentality is still expression, right? It's still emotions. And I feel bad often because they have to kind of lock that up and they can't express it. And women were allowed to. We're allowed to be like sensual, and we're allowed to cry, and we're expected to even be like feminine. So nonetheless, I always thought like, okay, if you go down that route and that life path, that you would be sacrificing like true love or, whatever. And that's actually not the case. And I'm like, wow, like, oh, okay, so cool. Like, that's interesting. And then after talking with like a few men friends that I have, and, even my previous, like, whatever. So I was like, okay, what's next? Like, what would be the next thing that would keep you from becoming like the next Raine, right? And I really love saying that, Aaron Raine. So I feel like that should be a podcast on its own. But I was like, okay, well, what about like family? And what about, society? And I was like, oh my goodness, Aaron, here's an opportunity. Because at the end of the day, what is being a black cat? What does that black cat energy actually mean? And it means not external validation, internal validation. It's like a return back to the heart. Because if I start thinking like, oh, I'm going to not be getting that approval, or I'm not, going to be loved anymore, and I'm not going to be accepted anymore, like, that's external validation. That's a dangerous place to be in. That's like such a fearful mindset, because the people that love you and that appreciate you and care about you, they're not going to, like, again, just like earlier with the girl to girl type of thing, they're not going to like shame you. They're not going to put you down. They're not going to be like, no. Like, they're going to be like, go get it. Do what you got to do. Like, maybe they don't, invest in the business or whatever. I don't know how that would look. But, like, they're not going to, like, shame you for it. They're not going to, like, not love you for it. They're not going to, XYZ. And then I got to really thinking, because, like, I don't know Miss Raine. I don't know her values as far as, like, what she believes in or her causes, philanthropy, anything like that. I started thinking, if I had $43 million, how would I show up in the world? Like, not just for myself and like my personal materials but like, how would I show up in society? And the first thing, and this isn't me trying to be like, I'm a good person or anything. Like, honestly, I don't care if you think I'm a good person or not. Like, in fact, I'm not even a nice person, but I know I'm a kind person. And at the end of the day, I know that for myself. But nonetheless, I was thinking, okay, I was always told by every millionaire I've ever known and a couple of billionaires that you really don't need more than $325,000 a year. Like, when you take that home, I'm not necessarily saying before taxes, but like, I'm saying like that's your actual take home. So after taxes, you're still making $325,000. So every single man or woman I've ever talked to is like, there is not really much more material things that you could possibly need if that's your take home. That's been like the sweet number that I've heard, hand over fist, we said 325. So 43 million is clearly a lot more than 325, right? So I was starting to think, like, what would I do? And I was thinking, even with the fact that like human trafficking and human rights and women and like promoting women's rights, whatever, is really dear to my heart. So like, I would definitely be investing in those causes. And then also, I love nature. I love the planet. Like, I'm such a fucking hippie. And like, I owned apothecaries for my entire 20s. So like, I'd probably give back to like causes that like help take care of the planet and help with climate change and cleaning up Miami beaches and whatever, right? And then I was like, okay, well, like, I've been doing good things. If given the money, like knowing I'm secure, knowing I'm safe, like I'd be wanting to like attend galas and just like auction things off and then giving them away. Like that's my personality. And I'm thinking if that's what I would do, like if you had the opportunity to go get that money, why wouldn't you? Like, why wouldn't you? So I just was going down this kind of rabbit hole because there's so much controversy on this, right? And the thing is the controversy is not coming from the men. It is coming from the women. Every single man I have talked to about this, like, and they're good men. They're good people. They're not bad people. They're not like, they're not the abusers. They're not the exploitators. They're not the cheaters. They're like, these are good men that I've been talking to, right? And they're like, oh, we don't judge them whatsoever. They're not necessarily subscribed to like OnlyFans or anything like that, but like they get it. Like logically, they're like, yeah, it makes sense. Business thing. Like they don't judge. Like, and I was like, would you date her? Like, not necessarily like her, but like a girl that was like on OnlyFans. They're like, yeah, if it was a good match, if like, she had a good heart and so there's no hang up for them. The hang up only came from the women that I've seen so far. And not even like my friends. My friends are also like, damn, maybe we should sign up. The only hang up I'm seeing is like on Instagram or on YouTube or whatnot, like just these hateful comments from like people. And I'm like, hate doesn't come from a place of knowledge and understanding. Hate comes from low vibe energy. So I was just thinking that just so aligns with being that black cat. That divine, dark, feminine energy just completely unleashed. Like, that's what this girl is. It's like, she's unleashed. And she, $43 million, did she place this right? I'm not going to tell her any type of business advice. I'm sure she can make good decisions for herself. But I'm just thinking, like, even if she didn't want to do it another day again in her life, if she did not want to work another day in her life, if she made a couple of good decisions with that money, she do whatever she wants. Like, that is power. Like, that is divine goddess energy power. Like, to be able to choose what you want to do with your time, when you want to do it, where you want to go, and who you're going to do it with, that is freedom. And that brings me to my last like major thing that I want to talk about with this girl is I feel like the highest virtue I have, like above everything I can possibly imagine is good that I would want to have in this life. Materials, relationships, whatever. It's freedom. Like, freedom is my highest of virtue. I want everybody that I can possibly meet. Like, my dharma, my soul mission is to help people mentally liberate themselves. And that comes through trust. It comes through trusting yourself. And this is what I was saying. I was getting my nails done yesterday, and I've known the owner of this salon for a while because I used to have a store in Aventura Mall, and she saw me basically grow up through my 20s. And essentially, she's just like, I've seen your your podcast, I've seen, your books come out, I've seen you just elevate. Like, I've been elevating. Even when I looked like I was in the darkness, I was still elevating, like, mentally. In here, in this shadow space of the dark times I was having, especially this year, so many dark moments, I was still liberating. It was like a cage was being pulled back in my mind. And that's how freedom works. Like, you don't just get to be free. Like, you see that with the founding fathers of the United States, and you see that with liberation and so many broken chains, right? You gotta fight for freedom. It's not free. That's the funny thing. Freedom is not free, right? So the mental liberation of helping people unlock those chains, literally shatter them, is my life purpose. And I'm thinking about how free she must feel at the end of the day. And how nice that must be. And again, I don't know Miss Raine. I want to have a conversation with her. But I imagine that at the end of this, especially when she showed her little, her lines, her budget, or not budget, her income statement, I imagine that she was just at the end of the day, she has all the power in the world for her life. She has all the freedom. She can go and make choices. Choices are so nice. You do not know who you are until you have choices. So with that, I just have to think, how would that life be? And who would I be to even imagine that she made the wrong decision, or that she is not a good person or weak or what? I only have good things to say about this girl. Go get your bread. Go do what you gotta do. And if anything, thank you. Thank you for showing that there's another path, another way, and that it's possible. Your mental liberation and your freedom and just what you're standing for. And honestly, it sounds like you're so proud of yourself, and I'm glad that you're proud of yourself, because that's what unlocks the rest of us. That's what makes other people trust themselves. That's what unleashes the inner knowing of there's so many different ways to live. There's no wrong way. No one can be I did this all right. No one's perfect. And I'm really happy to know that in this case, here is the masculine proof, the monetary proof that often people need in order to believe in something. Thank you. I feel more free, and I have more choices in my life just knowing that there is that option too. So with that, Black Kitties, again, this probably might have been just more of a testimony for Ms. Raine, from air to rain. But yeah, I'm mesmerized, and go get it. Go get it, my Black cats. Go trust yourself. Go get some choices.